So I've actually given this talk once before, and I felt that something was missing from it. And I wanted to think about what that was, and I was thinking about it today, and I think I realized what it was. And I realized that I should explain to everyone first why I'm talking about what I'm talking about. And this will all make sense soon, but the reason that what I'm about to tell you matters to me so much, and the reason that it's the only thing that I felt was worth talking about, that was right for me to talk about, is because as I went through life, I've tried to do a few different things, and I've realized that the only things that actually matter to me at the end of the day are people. And doing something to affect how people get towards the things they want to do in life. How can they move from the first step to realizing something? How can we speed that process up? How can we make it easier? How can we make more people do it? And make more people feel comfortable doing it? And so I just wanted you to know that the biggest thing that matters to me in the world is people. And you know, people do quite a few amazing things, but I think the most amazing thing we have, the most amazing thing we do, is that we imagine. And I think we imagine all the time. I think we imagine much more often than we realize. And I think everyone knows how amazing and inspiring and beautiful imagination can be. But I think we imagine every moment that our brains are functioning. And I think sometimes we imagine very negatively. I think sometimes we imagine a world around us that is worse than the world that is actually around us. I think sometimes we hold on to a story about what is possible for us, what we can do, and what we have to be afraid of that no longer rings true. You know, this idea that every moment in history, every moment in our lives, every place, every time has a kind of story. It's quite an interesting idea because I think it's quite true. I think every age of human history has its own heroes and villains, its own hopes and fears and aspirations. And what I want to ask is, does the story that we use to explain our world, is that story still true? Or is it doing us a disservice? And I want to ask this question very specifically for one generation of people, for my generation. And by generation, I don't mean age. I mean the people who grew up in a world defined by the same transformative change as the world that I grew up in. And if you're wondering what that change is, obviously, it's the internet. There is no more amazing global transformative change, nothing which has swept around the world at the same pace. Today, 2 billion people are connected to each other, and every single one of you in this audience today, and everyone who sees this video, has the power to connect with people anywhere, to inspire, to take action together. That is quite amazing. Every single one of you literally has the tools in your pockets and on your desks. And what are we doing with them? Are we rising to this opportunity or not? And you know, I don't think we are, because I think if you look around the world today, most would define it as a world in crisis. We have financial crises. We have environmental crises. But you know what? Maybe the only reason these things are problems are because we have not changed our perspectives to recognize the solutions around us. Now, thinking about this idea of life as a story, I want to ask you a simple question. All right, what do you think the structure of life is? If you had to draw it out as a simple diagram, what would it look like? What's the shape? Well, I think at its simplest, life is kind of like an arc. You start down here at the beginning, you're born and you're quite small, and then over time you grow and you become more knowledgeable, more powerful, more capable. And then eventually you kind of peak. And then over time things decline and you reach your destination, the end of your life, whatever you've achieved along this journey. And this structure, this arc, is actually quite similar to the structure of a story. You know, beginning, middle, and end. But it's particularly similar to the structure of a heroic story. Heroic stories begin with a group of people in a specific world or location, and they go on a journey towards a destination, and that destination is their goal, it's the dream that they're trying to realize. So I want to ask 3 things about our generation, about the web generation. And by the way, any of you could be a member of the web generation. It depends on how you think. It doesn't depend on your age. But I want to ask 3 things. I want to ask, who are we? What is the world that we live in? And what is our destination? Where are we going? And I want to start by asking the first 2 questions, looking into those questions, because I think how you think about yourself and how you think about the world around you really answer everything in your life. If you know your views on those two things, you can answer anything. And I want to try and explore these two questions through a story. And none of you have heard this story before, but it's a story that I'm sure you're all familiar with. And I'd like to close my eyes to tell it, if that's okay. And it would be really wonderful if all of you would close your eyes as well. Now this is the story of a 16 or 17-year-old girl who perhaps loves dance and music and acting, maybe art. And this is the story of her daily life. And I want you to think about this life, and I want you to try and envision someone you know who might share these experiences, who might have a life that isn't so different. I'm sure we all know someone. So this girl wakes up in the morning and she goes to her school and she studies a bunch of different subjects, but the things that she truly cares about, these things are not highly valued. The subjects that she truly finds give her meaning are considered slightly lesser. They're considered slightly less important than the others. So while she truly enjoys them and she enjoys everything she does in school, she always feels a little wrong for caring so much about these things. And then she goes home and she speaks to her parents. And she tries to tell them about these things that she loves, these things which she sees on the internet, on YouTube, on other communities. And they don't really engage with these things either because they don't share those interests. And more particularly, they don't believe that these goals of hers, these artistic goals, these musical, acting, and other goals are possible for her. They believe that in the world that we live in, no one can do that. And if they've done it, they're lucky. So, she doesn't find any kindred spirits with her parents or her peers or her school. So she goes online and on YouTube and Facebook and the like. She finds people who are actually doing these things she cares about. And that's the only place that she can truly find meaning in her life. Now I want you to ponder a question for me. What do you think will happen when she goes on to make the decisions that will define her life? Where she goes on to decide when she's finished school, what am I going to do with my life? What are my goals? Where will I study? What will I do after that? Do you think she will do as she believes in? Or do you think she will take the answers of all the people in her immediate vicinity and live someone else's life? I don't know. But I think this story is quite interesting because I think the desires of our character reveal three things about the web generation, about the way we think. And by the way, when I say the web generation, I don't mean that we use the internet. I mean that we think the way the internet works. We think the way that the internet was designed. You see, the internet is quite interesting. It's totally democratic. It's totally open. There are no layers. There's no hierarchy. Anyone can do anything. This is quite amazing because it means that the best ideas can rise to the top rather than only the most influential people. That is a complete sea change to how society works. It's amazing. And when I say the web generation, I mean people who think in that way. So these three things are, first, that the character in our story, the 16 or 17-year-old girl, she wants and believes that she should live in a world with a varied conception of what success truly is. You know, success is a very important word. You know, we have a lot of preconceptions about what it is, but what success really means is what do we think life is for? What do we think the goals of life are? Thus, the way we think about success is a really big deal. And fortunately, online, we're used to multiplicit conceptions of success. A world where there are many different ideas of what a good life is, many different ideas of what life is for, of what a goal is. There are all kinds of niches, and we can all fit in different places. And tied to that is a belief that there should be no barriers, that if I want to do something, I can start it, I can get involved in it, I can find people who care about the same thing, and we can do something together. I don't need someone else to tell me that that is who I am. I can decide for myself. Secondly,